Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating neurological mystery. We are going to look at exactly why nature feels so incredibly restorative to our totally exhausted minds.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We've all had those completely awful days at work, right? The kind where your brain just feels absolutely depleted and you literally cannot focus on a single thing. But why exactly does stepping outside into nature, going for a quick walk around a local pond or just sitting under a big oak tree, why does that suddenly melt away our mental fog? Is it just the fresh air, or is there something deeply, fundamentally neurological happening inside our heads?
Well, the answer actually starts with something called the biophilia hypothesis, which was coined back in 1984. This theory highlights a massive evolutionary mismatch between the natural environments our brains were literally built for and the highly artificial ones we're basically trapped in today. It argues that humans have this innate genetic affinity for nature-like environments. And it makes sense, right? Because we spent the vast majority of our evolutionary history surviving out in the wild, not, sitting in cubicles staring at glowing rectangles all day.
To solve this cognitive mystery, we're going to bridge some abstract psychological theories with dense neuroscience to see exactly how nature transforms our attention. We'll be covering 1. The modern brain drain, 2. The science of restoration, 3. The Posner paradigm experiment, 4. A surprising neural twist, and finally, 5. Powering human creativity.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the modern brain drain. Why our brains are exhausted.
So, the famous psychologist William James actually identified the core problem here by dividing our focus into two distinct types. First, modern work requires what he called directed attention. This is voluntary, and it is highly effortful. It basically requires you to constantly inhibit distractions just to focus on uninteresting tasks, like reading massive spreadsheets, which rapidly depletes your cognitive reserves. Nature, on the other hand, relies on effortless, restorative, involuntary attention. It offers what researchers call soft fascination, kind of like watching leaves sway in the wind. It engages your mind beautifully, but without demanding any real effort from you.
Moving on to Section 2, the science of restoration. Attention restoration theory.
Researchers Rachel and Stephen Kaplan discovered that nature restores our directed attention capacity by providing 4 essential components of effortless fascination. First up is being away, that incredible feeling of being far removed from your everyday thoughts and concerns. Second is fascination, an environment that just naturally draws your interest. Third, we have coherence, a setting that feels like a whole, structured world of its own. And fourth is compatibility, a space where you just feel comfortable and entirely at ease. When these 4 pillars are met, your absolutely exhausted brain finally gets to rest.
But what does this actually look like biologically? Let's look at Section 3, the Posner paradigm experiment, visualizing the methodology.
To prove this mechanically, neuroscientists used a visuospatial test, where the methodology was remarkably simple. Participants stared at a cross, saw a really fast directional cue, and then had to react to a target stimulus using either an urban or a natural background. But here's the kicker. The cues they were given were sometimes valid, meaning they pointed to the correct location, and sometimes they were invalid, purposely misleading them just to see how their brains would react to that conflict.
Which brings us to Section 4, a surprising neural twist, the data revealed.
Okay, so we've kind of set up the expectation that nature backgrounds would make participants more restored, right? The researchers posed a really critical question here. When participants were given an invalid, misleading cue, did the natural backgrounds speed up their reaction times to correct themselves? I mean, you'd probably think a restored brain is a much faster brain, wouldn't you?
Well, in a fantastic twist, the natural background actually caused significantly slower reaction times. No way, right? The EEG readings also showed an increased amplitude of N2 brainwaves, which are deeply associated with cognitive control and conflict monitoring. So nature didn't speed up their reflexes at all. It literally hit the brakes.
So, what does this all mean? The crucial point is explained by something called the stopping for knowledge hypothesis. This proposes that nature is so aesthetically rich that it actually commands our cognitive resources, intentionally slowing us down to deeply process the world around us instead of just impulsively reacting. It inhibits our motor responses and totally shifts the brain's priority from rapid action to deep, conscious exploration. It's a real game changer in how we understand focus. Let's look at the real-world impact in Section 5. Powering human creativity, the practical payoff. By forcing our brains to pause and completely dropping our threat responses, nature breeds this amazing, organic curiosity. As naturalist Melanie Tracy explains,
Nature is a child's toolbox, allowing an already very creative mind to flourish and encouraging exponential growth. It basically returns adults to a highly joyful and creative state of mind. When we step into nature, our opinions become way more flexible, we detach from daily stressors, and our brains suddenly have the leftover resources required to problem solve and truly imagine.
And this restored attention is exactly what unlocks immense human creativity, allowing us to effortlessly translate nature's designs right into our greatest modern inventions through biomimicry. Think about it. We took animal camouflage to make army uniforms. We modeled Velcro after plant burrs. We designed airplanes based on bird aerodynamics, created shock absorbers inspired by woodpeckers, and even created LED lighting inspired by fireflies. The natural environment essentially serves as a massive open-source catalog of solutions for the rested mind.
Which leaves us with a final thought today. Perhaps your mental fatigue isn't a weakness, or just a sign that you need yet another cup of coffee. If our most brilliant problem-solving happens when our minds are slowed down and captivated by natural fascination, your burnout might just be an evolutionary signal urging you to close the laptop, walk into the woods, and let your brain truly explore. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes how you view your next walk outside.